Shalom Yasharala, this your brother Dawada, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught us this truth and ever will. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here article real quick, dealing with, prophecies still being fulfilled. All right, as you see, it says Turkish leader Erdogan slams NATO ally Biden for calling Putin a killer, says U.S. president remarked were truly unacceptable. All right. And if you don't really understand about these international players and how they're all tied into each other and, a lot of these things, this is something to kind of look into because, these are going to be the catalyst that's going to kick off to what you understand as World War III and developing Assad. So right now we're in the brewing process right now. To give you an analogy, you want to boil some eggs, right? And you get your pot, you get your eggs, put all that in there, you put your water on, and you put the pot on the stove, all right, and you turn the stove on, all right. Now, as soon as you turn the stove on, you're not gonna get boiled eggs right then and there, all right. So this is like that process being put together, whether it's Russia developing weapons and things like that, that hook being put into their jaws and being preparing themselves, that could be akin to you grabbing the pot, and then you have certain things like these sanctions and, different things that America's doing to these other nations, which is drawing them to, leave America's side and starting to side with Russia. All right. You can akin that to putting the eggs inside the pot. All right. And then, you have, like I said, you have a lot of different things going on. All right. So this is just basically the same things that you have going on before the pot starts boiling. And you actually get the boiling eggs, that would be akin to what World War III. But you're seeing everything being put together for this perfect storm to take place. It says Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has criticized U.S. counterpart Joe Biden. And just as another note, Turkey is a part of NATO, right? And so NATO is a conglomeration of nations. Like if you ever hear us preaching about, the beast, like in Revelation, Revelation 17. Talking about the great whore, mystery Babylon, all right, riding upon this beast, all right. So the beast would be akin, just to give you an analogy, right? You have let's just say instead of using the word beast and whore and stuff like that, you have a horse and you have the horse rider, right? Now, the horse would be akin to, NATO and the EU. And just to backtrack a little bit on that, the EU is the European Union, all right? Now, NATO is pretty much a just like a military, it's like a military conglomeration of nations, all right, which purpose was to basically stop Russia from, from back in the old days, the USSR, to counter that, because that was a conglomeration of nations as well, too. All right. But then, you've seen what happened with that. You have these different nations form, like Latvia and stuff like that. All those nations over there, they used to be a part of Russia. But nevertheless, NATO is a military branch, all right, whereas you have the nations of the EU, all right, and then we say that's why you hear say NATO in the EU, right, because you have some nations like America is a part of NATO, but they're not a part of the EU, all right. Turkey is a part of NATO, but they're not a part of the EU, all right. I believe Canada is a part of NATO, but they're not a part of the EU, right. So this is why we say NATO and the EU, but nevertheless, you see these things starting to boil over. You have these two opposite sides. Like I said, NATO's so-called purpose was to deter Russia from their so-called aggression. All right. But like I said, you're starting to see these things play out to where, some of these allies are starting to turn to look to Russia. All right. Well, let me read. Yeah, second paragraph. Erdogan's statement comes despite Turkey's status as a NATO member, with Ankara appearing to take sides with Moscow over Washington. All right, now this is what this serious lesson is going to go into. All right, how America's allies are going to start turning on America. All right, because we can we'll touch on this a little bit, but we understand how in Ezekiel 38 it talks about Gog and Magog, and you read in Jeremiah 50 and 51 about how basically they're going to go and wage war against America. All right. But there's also, scriptures which we'll pull out as well, which goes into America's allies as well, turning on America, leaving her out to dry. All right. And this is what you're seeing start to take place. Let me read this again. Erdogan's statement comes despite Turkey's status as a NATO member, with Ankara appearing to take the sides of Moscow over Washington. Right. And now this all started, way before that. Again, Turkey is a NATO member, right? Now you have weapons and weapons development, right? You have let's just talk about missile defense systems, right? You have the Russian side, they have like the S-200, 250, 300, 400, 500, and so on and so forth, right? Missile defense system. America has pretty much something like the same idea. They have the THAAD system and the Patriot system, right? Or, in Israel, they call it the Iron Dome and the David Sling, all right? But these are American weapons, right? Same thing. Russia's are way more superior. Now, when you get into the fighter jets, all right, one thing that they have is America has what they had on paper, what they planned on doing was creating this plane, the F-35, all right, to be a stealth fighter jet, all right, where you couldn't pick it up on radar. Now, that plane is highly flawed and everything like that. Now, Russia and China, they also have their counterpart to those planes, in which their planes are way more advanced. So their whole weapon systems is way more advanced than America's. But going back, again, Turkey, being a part of NATO, was also a part of the F-35 program and helping in developing certain components of this here plane. Now, not to go too far into all these things, that F-35, like I said, is a stealth fighter jet, but the S-400, all right, which is a missile defense system, or also, anti-aircraft system. It can shoot down planes, missiles, and rockets and things like that. All right, these things can see those F-35s, all right, as far as it being stealth. It can pick it up on radar and everything like that. Not only that, it has a scanning ability to be able to scan this here plane and, download all of this technology and find its vulnerabilities and its soft spots, right? So there was an issue because, Turkey, all right, they're actually on the civil side with Russia. All right. Now, they wanted to get a missile defense system. All right. But then, they're looking at comparing the two sides, America's or Russia. Well, the Americans cost, I think, 2 to 3 times more than the Russians. But the Russians is like 10 times way better than the Americans. The Americans really ain't upgraded their shit in a long time. All right. They have like a 50% chance of actually hitting their target. It's very low, in comparison to where they will want the accuracy to be. You know what I'm saying? Just imagine you having a gun and you got a 50% chance of that bullet going wherever you pointing that barrel at. That's not really good. You shoot off 10 rounds, you know what I'm saying? 5 of them may go into the direction that you pointed at, and the other 5 might go far left, far right, far up, far down. That's not good. All right. But, there was an issue because Turkey wanted to get this S-400 system from Russia, or a missile defense system. And they was looking at America's, which was, not as good and cost more money. And then they decided, and they looked at Russia's, which was cheaper and a better quality. So they wanted to go get this from Russia, which pissed America off, right? Because, again, if they have the F-35s and being in an F-35 program, and they take delivery of this S-400 and they turn it on next to it, it pretty much compromises the F-35. It makes it obsolete. But nevertheless, this is what wound up happening. They got into a deal with Russia to buy these S-400s. All right, then they went in and actually took delivery of them. Now, the S-400 system comes like this, right? Russia will sell you the S-400, basically let you rent it, because they send their men over to operate it and run it and everything like that. So, if America was to attack one of those, you attacking Russian equipment and Russian soldiers, it'd be on. But nevertheless, that pissed America off. And, they was trying to put sanctions on Turkey and everything like that. So you see the relationship starting to sour. All right. So it says Biden's statement about Mr. Putin are not fitting of a president, and a president coming out and using such remarks against the president of a country like Russia is truly unacceptable and not something that can be stomached, Erdogan said, according to Reuters. Now, why is a country like Turkey talking like this? Well, Turkey is in a very good position geographically in the Middle East, all right, for launching strikes. America uses their bases. They got nuclear arsenal over there and everything as well, all right. But why is Turkey speaking like this when they know that, they big homie can take them out at any moment, Well, they getting that S-400, and it's also, like I said, prophesied in the scripture that these things would happen, all right. Now they're starting to, sow that division within one another, all right. It says, you know what, I'm not gonna, let me read this last paragraph. It says, despite an anchored status as a member of NATO, Putin and Erdogan have a close working relationship. In recent months, they teamed up to create a joint monitoring system in Nagorno-Karabakh following the Azer-Armenian War of 2020. In February, Turkey purchased Russian S-400 missiles, becoming the first NATO state to do so. Last week, a last week, following a video conference between the two presidents, Putin and Erdogan announced that they would be cooperating on building a power plant in Turkey, in the Turkish province Mersin. All right, so Turkey's getting way more benefits, and not just Turkey. These other nations are going to start seeing the same thing too. Now, you have a situation between Russia and Germany and parts of Europe when they're trying to get like the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, so they can sell them basically natural energy, natural gases, and things like that. Which that's pissing America off because America, they getting cut out and they ain't making no money. So you're seeing, America's allies getting better deals from Russia, and the Russians treating the American allies better than America is. All right, and then they all brainwashed to think that Russia's the problem. Like, wait a minute, Russia the one giving us better deals than you, man. You've been slapping our head the whole time and only costing us lives and money and being looked down upon, on a world stage and things like that, man. All right, so it's not very beneficial for them. All right, so let me start out here in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50. In verse 9, it says, "For lo, I will raise and to cause to come up against Babylon," being America's Babylon, "an assembly." All right, so that we're going to, focus on that word, a group of nations, right? It says, "Assembly of great nations from the north country. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrow shall be as a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain." And when you go and you look at the technology that Russia has right now with their missile systems, all right, they got their hypersonic, I believe it's called an Avangard missile. All right, you have the Saramat 1 and 2, which is nicknamed the Satan 1 and the Satan 2 missile. And one of them damn missiles can take out a state the size of Texas. All right, and so ain't no fucking with that. All right, they can reposition themselves. They're smart missiles. Like it says here, it says, "From thence she shall be taken," going into those intercontinental ballistic missiles. Russia don't got to come over here and shoot at America with their tanks, on a short range. No, they can launch off intercontinental ballistic missiles from Russia that'll go up into space and re-enter and drop back down on America, rain down on America. And that's exactly what's going to happen. All right, it says, "From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows," all right, talking about these missiles, "shall be as a mighty expert man." All right, they're very smart and intelligent. They have smart missiles now. Like I said, the Satan 2 missile can reposition itself. Those nuclear power cruise missiles, they can fly indefinite. They can change targets midstream. So can those nukes, and paths and everything else like that. They can dodge incoming missiles and everything like that, man. All right, the arrow shall be as a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain, meaning that they all gonna hit their targets. They have the technology for these things, but ultimately it's gonna be the Lord that's gonna direct these missiles to do their job, to do His bidding. All right. Let me briefly touch on this in Ezekiel 38. Let me start at verse 4. It says, "I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thy army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords." All right. So going into this, Russia's being brought back. Let me read 5 and 6. "Persia, Ethiopia," Persia being Iran, "Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with shields and helmet. Gomer and all his bands in the house of Tomargah of the north quarters, and all his bands and many people with thee." Right. So again, it's prophesied that these nations will be joining hand in hand with Russia at the end time. All right, and basically they're gonna be working in cooperation to take down America. But as you were looking here at the so-called weaponry here, all right, they wasn't really talking about offensive weapons. They spoke more of these defensive weapons. All right, the bucklers, the shields, the helmets. All right, these are all to protect you from incoming strikes and things like that. But nevertheless, you have, this is what you're seeing being played out as far as Russia developing these S-400s, S-300s, and selling them to these different nations. Just like you seen when America was trying to steal Venezuela and put up their own puppet over there. America kept trying to overthrow the government with their coups and everything, but then all that stopped, and you stopped hearing about that news, all right, once they put that S-300 over there. All right, so same thing over in Syria. America was go over there talking about terrorists, we got to kill the terrorists off. But then once they put the S-300 over there, they stopped flying over there. You ain't hear nothing else about ISIS over there, man. All right, now as Turkey's getting this S-400 and America's so-called mad and putting sanctions, but what they gonna do to them? They're between a rock and a hard spot. What you gonna do? Fly your planes over there and bomb the hell out of them? You can't do that. All right, because them S-400s is gonna shoot down your planes, and plus you got a nuclear arsenal over there. So what you gonna do? All right. Verse 7, "Be thou prepared and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, be thou a guard unto them." So see, Russia's being the head nation that's supplying these weapons and these defense mechanisms to these other nations, all right, and leading the charge with these other nations. These other nations are now coming up under the the leadership of Russia. All right, setting the stage for World War III. Slovakia. This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1 and verse 7. All right, now this is talking about Esau, which, the Russians and the Americans are both Edomites, but we understand according to the prophecies that, the Lord is, and it's ironic and funny that the Lord is going to use Satan, the Edomites, the Russian Edomites, to take out Satan. All right, like the scripture said, if Satan be divided against itself, his kingdom can't stand. All right, and this is how Esau is going out. But you have these Russian Edomites that's going to go to and wage war against these American Edomites. All right, so you have Satan going to go to war with Satan with the weapon called, that NATO nicknames, Russia called the Saramat 1 and the Saramat 2, but NATO nicknames them Satan 1 and Satan 2 missiles. All right, those big thermonuclear missiles that they got, man. All right, so hey, man, this is what's going to happen. But we know right here we're reading about America basically about to be taken out. All right, it says all the men of that confederacy, all right, that conglomeration or that group of nations. You have America with NATO and the EU. America is leading the charge. All right, again, that's the whore that's riding upon the beast. All right, and the beast being like I said, the horseman riding on the horse. The horseman is directing the beast to the horse where it's going to go. So America is the one that's directing these other nations of what they're going to do. All right, so they have a situation where if one of the NATO nations get attacked, then all of them are going to come to their aid. But they don't have a situation where if one nation decide to go and invade another nation, they all got to follow. But yet and still, like if France decide to go roll up on, whatever country, China or some shit, all of the NATO members are going to go follow. No, they're going to leave their ass out there to dry. But when it comes to America, all right, look back at 2001. All right, nobody wanted to go to war in the Middle East, but America took their happy ass over there, and guess who followed? All right, all their allies in NATO and the EU. All right. But it says all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. All right, and this is what you're starting to see happen with Turkey. All right, and Germany and France. They're like, nah, we're gonna keep dealing with Russia, man. We're gonna keep dealing with Russia. But this is causing souring relationships between these nations. It's gonna end up with a boiling effect to where these nations are gonna have to come to a collision course. It says all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. All right, so look, the men that was at peace, all right, these are their allies. They was friends, right? But it deceived them and prevailed against them. All right, they was in the F-35 program, but took a delivery of this S-400. It deceived them. Nah, we're gonna be cool. We friends. We ain't gonna, because if you join NATO, the whole purpose of that is to stop the quote unquote Russian aggression. So your adversary, based off of you just joining NATO, would be what? Russia. But how you gonna go behind your team's back to go deal with this quote unquote enemy? All right. So it says, the men that were at peace with thee deceived thee and prevailed against thee, and they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is no understanding in him. So eating of the bread, it's like a parent to a child. That parent is feeding the child to strengthen the child, nourish the child, bring the child up, and so on and so forth. And this is what America has been doing: is the parent feeding their children, these other nations, to strengthen their nations, their militaries, and so on and so forth. Because look, they're using these American-made weapons, which are far superior to a lot of these other nations' weapons. But now you have Russia coming up on the block as being, basically the more dominant power. All right, but it says, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee, and they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There's no understanding in him. And so what this wound is going to be, what? They start to take delivery of this S-400, S-300, and things like that. So what? America can't even bark up their damn tree, man. Because if they start barking, they be like, what you going to do? Come over here and take something from us or something like that? You can't, because you got to fly over here. All right. And we got the thing that'll render your planes obsolete. So there's nothing you can do. All right. And you might want to watch how you're speaking about these people that's our friends that we're invested in and trying to make money with. All right. So we'll close out over here. Not trying to make this too long. Well, let me Revelation 17:3. So he carried me in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman, all right, which is, America, sit upon a scarlet colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right. And that beast would be, going into the 7 heads and the 10 horns. These are different nations and different kings, right? Which is going into basically NATO and the EU, basically. They just, some of those nations have split and turned into 2 different nations, but it's, it's the same players from back in the days, man. All right. But let me jump down to verse 7. Yeah, 17. Well, let me go. Let me read verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. All right. And so this is what you have going on right now. This is all being shaped up to take place where, you know, the American allies are positioning themselves with the enemies of America, all right, and putting themselves in a position so if the war breaks out, you know, they're gonna at a flip of a dime just turn because now they got better assets from Russia and everything like that. They don't want to lose all that, man. America not giving them good energy and things like that. You got Turkey over here trying to build a nuclear reactor basically with Russia, man. All right, that's going to benefit them in their country. But what? Staying toe to toe with America, all it's doing is dragging their country down and everything like that, man. Putting them at odds and at war with other nations. All right, now Turkey got some natural enemies, so-called terrorist groups that are terrorists to them, that America's over here financing behind the scenes, man. All right, to do their bidding, but it's just coming back as blowback on Turkey, man. So that's not very beneficial to them, man. All right, so as we see these prophecies taking place, let me close out with this one. You know, we can measure the time diligently just by looking at these here prophecies. Habakkuk 2 and 3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, right? So we were just reading about these different prophecies that was written, you know, a long ass time ago, more than 2,000 years ago. But now it's starting to shape up. Now it's starting to speak, all right? The vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it shall surely come. It will not tarry, all right? And that, hey, that's what's going on right now. You know, you're seeing these things develop at a rapid pace right now, all right? But you know, we know how all these things are about to end, man. You know, I mean, we rejoice in these times because why? Our salvation is nearer than what we believe. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying unto the elect. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakah Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, the great millstone that taught us his truth and our well. And salutation and much love for you, I can push his truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.